Q and Review, celebrating 40 years of audio production, welcomes you to this week's edition of the Glasgow Times Sports Podcast, recorded from our studio in the Bishopbriggs Media Centre and by our volunteers working from home. Keep up to date with Q and Review news via our Facebook, X, formerly known as Twitter, or Instagram at Q and Review. That's @CUEANDREVIEW, or get in touch with us directly by emailing information@qandreview.com. That's INFORMATION @CUEANDREVIEW.com, or by calling us on 0141 772 3979. Please like and share our podcast and give us constructive feedback.
Evening Times Sport, July 22. Is it time the Open returned to Turnberry? Report by Christy Dorsey. The dust has settled with world number one Scottish Scheffler winning this year's Open at Royal Portrush in dominant fashion. Next year's competition at Royal Birkdale will be followed in 2027 by a return to St Andrews in Scotland, and thereafter it is a matter of conjecture as to who will host the following instalment of the world's oldest golf tournament. The new chief executive of the R&A, Mark Darbon, stoked a bit of speculation last week during a press conference in Northern Ireland when he spoke of a really good discussion early this year about the possibility of the Open returning to the United States President's golfing jewel in Turnberry. Amid rumours of pressure on the UK government to help make this happen, Mr Darbon said the decision is firmly with the R&A, and there remains big logistical challenges at Turnberry, which last hosted the Open in 2009. Donald Trump is due to visit his Scottish golf courses, including those at Trump International in Aberdeenshire later this week, and is expected to receive a frosty reception from protesters. This will not deter him from pushing the case for Turnberry, while officials here will seize the opportunity to parley with the President on matters such as trade tariffs and the offshore oil industry. The punters who piled into Rory McIlroy overnight on Saturday to overhaul Scheffler's four-shot lead following the Irishman's spirited performance in the third round took a calculated gamble and lost. Betting on the eventual return of the Open to Turnberry is an equally tricky proposition. You see the scale of the setup here at Royal Portrush, and we've got some work to do on the road, rail and accommodation infrastructure around Turnberry, Darbon told reporters last week. We have explicitly not taken it out of our pool of venues, but we would need to address those logistical challenges should we return. Asked directly if the resort's ownership will impact the decision on Turnberry, Darbon said, "This is a somewhat hypothetical question, unless these other issues are addressed. I met a couple of months ago with Derek Trump and some of the leadership from the Trump Golf Organization and from Turnberry. We had a really good discussion. I think they understand clearly where we're coming from. We talked through some of the challenges that we have, so we've got a good dialogue with them." While a bit short of a resounding endorsement, this is a softening in the R&A's stance under previous Chief Executive Martin Slumbers, who suggested on numerous occasions that the famed Ailsa course would not host the Open while under the ownership of Donald Trump. Speaking to the Golf Channel, the month before retiring from the R&D in December 2024, Slumbers said, "We will not be taking any events there until we are comfortable that the whole dialogue will be about golf. The situation is something we are still not comfortable with at the moment, but that could evolve in the coming years." Looking ahead to later this week, views have been put forward as to whether the UK Prime Minister or Scotland's First Minister should be more concerned about meeting with Trump on his forthcoming trip. Both are scheduled to do so. Both Starmer and John Swinney can expect criticism for engaging with Trump. "I will leave the political optics for others to wrangle with, but I cannot help imagining the moment when First Minister Swinney broaches the subject of Scotch whisky exports to the United States, which are being disrupted by higher tariffs. I lay a wager that the Open and Turnberry are among the first 20 words in Trump's response." The final tally has yet to be verified, but based on advance ticket sales, the R&D estimated back in April crowds totaling 278,000 throughout last week's competition on the Dunluce links at Royal Portrush. When confirmed, let's be realistic, it will be confirmed. This will be the second best attended Open in history, after some 290,000 people descended on St Andrews in 2022 for its 150th anniversary. More than 258,000 fans attended last year's tournament at Royal Troon, making it third on the all-time list. Size matters in the modern model of this historic competition, and numbers such as those dwarf the roughly 123,000 spectators who made the trip to Turnberry when the Ayrshire resort last hosted the Open. With the exception of 2020 and 2021, when the event was cancelled and the following year restricted by COVID containment measures, Turnberry has by far the lowest attendance record of the last 17 years. The next closest is Muirfield in 2013 with 142,000, another hopeful hampered by logistics, which is vying for a slot after being reinstated to the Open rota in 2017. Put another way, crowd numbers in all of the last 4 years since the pandemic have comfortably more than doubled the turnout at Turnberry in 2009. Mr. Darbin said earlier this year, "That's really important for us, because not only do we want to showcase this wonderful championship to as many people as possible, but it is important for us in terms of our commercial model, because everything that we generate from the Open, we then reinvest back into the game all around the world." In this he clearly agrees with his predecessor, Slumbers, who was fond of saying that big-time sport needs a big-time crowd. Questions of capacity appear to have overtaken politics in the quest to return the Open to Turnberry, says Christy Dorsey. Evening Times Sport, July 22. Open champion Scheffler does dominance his way. Report by Nick Roger. Whoever said writing about golf for a living was a glitzy occupation obviously did not see a scribbler trying to cobble together a column in an Open Championship media centre that is being dismantled around him. As our base for the past 7 days at Portrush was slowly razed to the ground amid a dizzying cacophony of bashing, clattering, boring and battering, the working environment had all the glamour of a flustered toilet break at a dreary motorway service station. Your correspondent's general mood was not helped by an ailing laptop that had been showing signs of giving up the ghost. Over the weekend, for example, the R and the T buttons on the keyboard were only working intermittently. That, as you can imagine, caused a bit of an issue for a spell, and we started feverishly typing away like Angela Lansbury during the opening credits of an episode of Murder, She Wrote. Scotty Scheffler would often appear on my Word document as Scotty Scheffel. Portrush came out of Push, and Robert McIntyre was diminished to OBE McIntyre. To be fair, it probably made more sense than the cobblers I usually type, but the computer keeper became a right old pain in the A, and even that came out as ASE. We got there in the end though. Another open is done and dusted. Perhaps I should have just flung the laptop on the media centre pyre too. Scheffler was a brilliant champion at a brilliant venue. I also thought he dealt brilliantly with the inevitable and wearisome comparisons to Tiger Woods. I think they are a bit silly, he said about the prospect of emulating the 15 major titles that Woods racked up. In this game, we are never done with premature anointments and coronations as we seek a new golfing hero for the ages. Rory McIlroy, for instance, was tagged with that burdensome "Next Tiger" label when he won a quartet of major championships between 2011 and 2014. We all know what happened after that. He didn't win another until this year's Masters during a prolonged drought that just about led to a hosepipe ban. Jordan Spieth had the Tiger sticker slapped on his back when he won 3 majors between 2015 and 2017, while Brooks Koepka had it pinned on him for a spell when he reeled off 4 in a 2-year blitz. The magnitude of Woods' accomplishments, of course, continue to dwarf all that the new generation have achieved. In an era of relative parity in the men's game, Scheffler, who became the 12th successive first-time winner of the Open, has emerged as its dominant force, but it is important to enjoy the present and savour watching him pen his own success story instead of obsessing about him rewriting Tiger's tale. Establishing a Tiger-like tyranny on the global game would require Scheffler to continue his sustained excellence over a ridiculous period of time. While all and sundry work themselves into a fankle about the prospect of Scheffler doing this, that, and the other in the weeks, months, and years to come, the man himself retains a wonderful sense of reason. Never too up, never too down, just serene, level-headed middle ground. He seems to be at total peace with himself. As men's professional golf in its upper echelons descended into a civil war over the past couple of years with the emergence of the LIV rebellion, it is perhaps no coincidence that the calmest man in the room has prevailed and prospered. In this fractured time, when egos, greed, and entitlement have grabbed much of the attention, the grounded Scheffler is just the right man to be on top of the golfing world. He is largely unaffected by fame and fortune, and all the talk of greatness tends to be greeted with a nonchalant shrug. And he said, "I don't identify myself by winning tournaments, chasing trophies, being famous, or whatever it is. There are 2 Chipotles, by the way, that's a restaurant chain, that I eat at when I'm at home. If I was to go to the one near to where I grew up, and try to eat nowadays, it would be very difficult for me. But there's another one in a different part of town, and if I go there, nobody recognizes me. In the post-Tiger age, Scheffler's relative anonymity can highlight golf's place in the wider scheme of global sports. With the exception of Woods and McIlroy, golf stars cannot really hold a candle to the shining lights in other pursuits. Have a meander into the remote jungles of Sarawak, and you will probably stumble upon a village elder wearing a Lionel Messi football shirt, a Ronaldo top, or a Steph Curry basketball vest. I'm being slightly outlandish here, but you get the idea. These sportsmen and these sports have a reach across cultures and continents. Scheffler, on the other hand, could walk down just about any high street or into a Chipotle diner, and most folk would not bat an eyelid. That's not Scheffler's fault, of course. In these hark-at-me times, he would probably have a higher profile if he was prone to headline-grabbing comments or lively antics, on or off the course. But that ain't Scheffler, and that's absolutely fine. His talent and achievements alone should be enough to attract acclaim. Many, though, still view his persona as more day at the office than box office. Undervalued? Perhaps, but unrivaled? There's no doubt. The magnificent Scheffler will continue to do his dominance his way, says Nick Rodger. Evening Times Sport, July 22. Partick Thistle want Celtic pair on loan. Report by Blair Meikle. Partick Thistle would like to take Celtic pair Kyle Ewer and Josh Clark on loan. Former Parkhead defender Mark Wilson took the reins at Firhill this summer after working alongside Brian Graham on an interim basis last season. He has already added the likes of Tony Watt to his squad as he looks to prepare for the championship season ahead. Now he wants to turn to his former club for his latest additions. Wilson would like to take 19-year-old Celtic B midfielder Ewer to beef up his option, according to the Daily Record. He has been involved with Brendan Rodgers' first team during pre-season and featured against Sporting last week. He was an unused substitute against Newcastle on Saturday. The Scottish champions would like to see the player benefit from first-team experience out on loan. Ewer is expected to make his decision in the coming days. The second Celtic player wanted by Wilson is 20-year-old goalkeeper Josh Clark. The shot-stopper spent last season on loan at Scott Brown's Ayr United, and the Jags now want him to rival new signing Lewis Boudinaucas for the Gloves. Quote by Blair Meikle. Evening Times Sport, July 22. Scotland international to go out on loan. Report by Mark Walker. Scotland international Kieran Slicker will be sent out on loan after being told he is now Ipswich Town's fourth-choice keeper. The 22-year-old made his full international debut last month after coming on for an early sub for Angus Gunn. However, his first cap turned into a nightmare after high-profile mistakes saw Scotland slump to a shock 3-1 defeat at Hampden, and he did not play in the next game away to Liechtenstein. Slicker was not involved in Ipswich's pre-season tour to Austria, and manager Kieran McKenna used Alex Palmer and Christian Walton for a half each in their friendly win against FC Blow Vice Linz. And he also has Kosovo international keeper Aro Muric who was Ipswich's #1 for spells last season, meaning Slicker is now fourth choice at the Portman Road club. McKenna has vowed to send Slicker on loan to get first-team experience and said, "He is looking at options for loans. All being well, the plan would be for him to go and get some first-team experience this year, which he's definitely ready for. So we'll see how all that pans out over the next few weeks. But the goalkeeping side of things is a really strong department at the moment. We need at least 3 really strong senior goalkeepers in the building. We'll see how it plays out over the remainder of the summer." Report by Mark Walker. Evening Times Sport, July 23. Alex Ferguson shares playlist of his life for charity. Report by Gabriel Mackay. Sir Alex Ferguson has begun compiling a playlist of his life as part of an initiative to combat dementia. The legendary football manager, who won 48 major trophies with Aberdeen and St Mirren, has become an official ambassador for leading music and dementia charity Playlist for Life, following seasons of strong support through fundraising and participation in awareness-raising campaigns. The charity advocates for the use of personal playlists in dementia care across communities, health boards, care homes, and for families and people at home. Its approach, which is backed by more than 2 decades of research, starts with creating and listening to a playlist of songs that make up the soundtrack to your life, tracks that take you back to special moments in your life, and tunes that remind you of loved ones. The organizer has trained almost 10,000 health and social professionals to embed personal playlists into dementia care, with one team in NHS 5 reporting an 80% reduction in the use of medication used to manage symptoms for a group of people living with dementia. Ferguson said, "Dementia is a big challenge for all of us, but we all know someone close to us who has dementia. It's not always easy to talk about, but music is a fantastic thing that can help. I am beyond proud to be an ambassador for Playlist for Life. Visiting the team and hearing more about the work they do, I can see they are leading the way in using music to transform the lives of people affected by dementia. Music is a fantastic thing. I've made a start on the playlist of my life. I recommend everyone does the same and supports this fantastic charity." Michael Timmons, Executive Director of Playlist for Life, said, "Sir Alex's backing in this new role of ambassador will help us reach many more people living with dementia or caring for someone living with dementia. We are working to embed personal playlists into dementia care in communities, hospital, and care settings across the UK as standard, because it is so much more than something that's just nice to have. Personal playlists can improve the lives of people living with dementia by helping to spark connection and reduce some of the more distressing symptoms. It is a privilege to have Sir Alex Ferguson pulling on the Playlist for Life jersey as an official ambassador following many years of quiet but generous support. During his visit to our office, he seemed impressed by the team's work and understood the importance of our approach to dementia care. We hope his support encourages more people to discover the power of personal playlists and create their own today. Evening Times Sport, July 23. Career amateur golfer sticks to making a living 9 to 5. Report by Kirsty Dorsey. Age 24, when she got her first shot at representing her country, Jennifer Saxton came relatively late to the elite amateur game. That said, she did consider a career in professional golf while playing and studying for her marketing degree at the University of Stirling. And she says, when you are at university, it's all anyone ever talks about. Are you going to turn pro? When are you going to turn pro? It definitely made you consider it. But the thing for me was, there's really not a whole lot of money in it for the women. You have to be in the top 10 or 20 in the world, really, to be making a good living out of it. And I had no interest in sort of struggling to get through life. As a career amateur, Saxton, who currently plays off +4, has among other things represented Scotland in the Concession Cup and the Home Internationals. She is also a winner of the prestigious St. Rule Trophy, and most recently put in a repeat performance at the European Ladies Team Championship. She is on track to qualify for the United States Mid-Amateur Golf Championship in California at the end of this year, but there is an outside shot she could be picked for the World Amateur Team Championships in Singapore. Unfortunately, the timing of the two events clash. Still, her amateur career has taken her to some desirable golfing destinations that she would have to foot the bill for as a professional player. As an amateur representing a team, it's all covered by event organisers. And she says, if you're trying to play professional golf, it is a long, difficult journey. I've seen so many of the girls that I play with turn pro and really struggle. To me, you have got to be winning everything at the amateur game to even have a chance of competing in the pro scene. But for some reason, everyone thinks just because they're off a plus handicap or they're playing in these events that they've got a chance of actually making a living out of golf in the professional ranks. I just wish that more people stuck around as an amateur and enjoyed their golf career, because it's kind of sad to see people falling out of love with the game because they are out trying to grind on the LET Access Tour and not playing very well, with the pressure of trying to make more money or to play better to make some money. It is difficult. Report by Kirsty Dorsey. Evening Times Sport, July 23. Livingston swoop for Celtic youngster as part of three-man ad. Report by Blair Meikle. Celtic youngster Adam Montgomery is set to join Livingston on loan as part of a triple swoop. The left-sided 23-year-old player had a spell at Queen's Park last season following previous loans at Aberdeen, St Johnstone, Motherwell and Fleetwood Town. He has 2 years left on his Parkhead deal, but is now set to head out for another spell away, this time in the top flight with David Martindale's side. The Daily Record has reported the youngster had lots of interest from both England and Scotland, but Martindale managed to persuade him to head to West Lothian. So Montgomery will spend the season with the Premiership returnees and aid their bid to avoid the drop this time around. Livingston are also set to sign Hearts midfielder Aidan Denham on loan and former Willem II striker Jeremy Bokila. Montgomery has been involved with Rogers' first team in pre-season and started the friendly against Queen's Park before being named as a substitute against Cork, Sporting Lisbon and Newcastle. Report by Blair Meikle. Evening Times Sport, July 23. Greek star in bullish Rangers vow. Report by Mark Walker. Panathinaikos star Filip Jurisic insists they can turn their Champions League nightmare around and knock out Rangers in Athens. Rangers have 1 foot in the next round after a 2-0 home win at Ibrox against the 10-man Greeks, who were guilty of missing a string of chances. The return is at the Olympic Stadium next week, and Serbian midfielder Jurisic reckons the tie is far from over. And he stressed, "I believe in Athens we will turn the match around. But when a game ends and you've lost 2-0, you cannot be satisfied. We played well. We had many chances, and if I or Facundo Pellistri had scored at 0-0, things would have been different. Sometimes you have to take responsibility. We still have the rematch, and then we'll have a chance to go through. We are satisfied with how we played, but I cannot be satisfied with the fact that we missed the opportunities. We showed that we can create chances. In Athens, in front of our own fans, I believe in victory." And his colleague, Uruguayan star Pellistri, took responsibility for the defeat when he said, "We dominated in the first half, but we failed to take the many chances we had. That's how football is. Credit to Rangers for taking their chances. We are very sad to leave here, but at least we still have a chance of avenging this defeat in Athens. At home, we will have our fans behind us, and with them with us, anything is possible." Report by Mark Walker. Evening Times Sport, July 24. Athletics. McColgan on rivals' failed drug test. Report by Graham McPherson. Ailish McColgan admits news that the marathon record holder Ruth Chepngetich has been provisionally suspended after returning a banned substance in a drugs test is really disappointing. The Kenyan, the first woman to run the distance in under 2 hours 10 minutes, was found to have the banned substance HCTZ in her system in a sample taken in March. McColgan, who had been meant to run against her in the Scots London Marathon debut in April until the Kenyan withdrew, felt it was detrimental to the sport, but praised the authorities for taking swift action. Speaking in her new role as an ambassador for the Glasgow 2026 Commonwealth Games, McColgan said, "I try not to think about it too much, because I feel if I stand on the start line and that's all I'm thinking about, then it's a very negative place to be. But it is really disappointing. I think a lot of people now look at that and suspect that doping's rife within the sport. When the top person is doing it, it is really disappointing. But I think the agents and coaches need to be a little bit more responsible for that as well. I mean, this isn't just Ruth doing this on her own. There's a deeper team involved here that are essentially, I'm not going to say using an athlete, but do you know what I mean? Whether there's coaches, doctors, agents, I think they need to be held responsible in some way. The ban is on the athlete, but there needs to be something on the coaches and the people that are administrating this to try and cut it down. They are really having a big crackdown on Kenya at the moment, which is amazing to see. Kenya athletes, to be fair to them, have invested a lot of money in catching people, and it is obviously clearly working, which is great. McColgan also revealed she had been the victim of racist abuse online after announcing her engagement to partner Michael Rimmer. The 10,000 metres Commonwealth Games champion has previously been outspoken about receiving hateful comments about her appearance, but said the comments about being a mixed-race couple were disgusting, and she hoped more would be done by social media firms and other watchdogs to try to clamp down on it, and added, "The abuse I get is usually about body image, but I recently posted about my engagement to my partner, and the racist abuse that we received, obviously being a mixed-race couple, was honestly disgusting. I've never read anything like it in my life." That was probably pretty eye-opening for me, because it was a different type of abuse that was coming towards me that I had never experienced before. And it's maybe how my parents feel when they read stuff about me. It was me reading that about someone I love, which was difficult to do. So it probably gave me a little bit of a greater appreciation of what my family probably have to go through when they read stuff about me online. But sadly, that's just the downside of social media and the online world that we are in. All we can do is keep standing up for ourselves, voicing our disgust at it, outing people who are maybe not afraid to share their names and stuff online, but also ask for verification on social media. All we can do is continue to call it out, try and educate the next generation on not being an asshole, pretty much. Report by Graham McPherson. Evening Times Sport, July 24. Celtic targets price tag set at £7 million by Dutch manager. Report by Martin Macmillan. A Dutch manager said Celtic target Jacob Brum could fetch a £7 million transfer fee. The Hoops reportedly made a £1.5 million offer for the go-ahead Eagles winger, seeking a replacement for Nicholas Kuhn, who was sold to Serie A's Como for £17 million. However, Go Ahead want more for the Danish under-21s star. Former 20 and Sheddy and Go Ahead Eagles boss Jan van Sta reckons the 21-year-old's quality is no surprise to top clubs, and he said, "You know what it is about Brum? Every club is looking for something special, and Brum is certainly special. I am not saying he will have the same career as Dusan Tadic, but he reminds me of him, and 20 sold him for £7 million. Brum has already played a lot of games for a young player. It would be a lot of money for him, but it would not surprise me at all if a big club would pay that. Look at his form last season and his potential. If I really wanted to find a special player in the Netherlands, he would be on that list. You're looking for extra class, and this guy has extra class. Meanwhile, Callum McGregor has explained and addressed his post-Scottish Cup final tears 2 months on. The Celtic captain was distraught after his side lost on penalties to Aberdeen. To allow Jimmy Thielen's side to lift the famous trophy, and with it their hopes of another domestic treble were extinguished. McGregor was in tears on the pitch post-match and had to be consoled by manager Brendan Rodgers. Much was made of it, but the 32-year-old stalwart insists it is simply an indication, if it was even needed, of how much the club means to him, and he said, "You cannot turn the tap on and off. It's a 24-hour thing that you live with every single day, and my job is to make this club successful. So when that doesn't happen, you feel responsible. With the position you are in, you take the pressure, you take the responsibility, and it goes all the way through your life. You cannot just switch it off. So it is a big pressure, but it is something I like, and it's something I've thrived under and been successful more often than not. But when you have a sore one, it's a reminder of how you need to keep pushing, keep learning, and keep getting better. And you hopefully minimize those down days. With someone like the manager, when something like that happens, you feel you've let him down. You also feel you've let the team down, and you've let the club down. Like I say, you hold that responsibility, so you just cannot switch it off. You feel responsible in the good days, and you feel responsible in the bad days as well. That's something I'm quite proud of. I take so much pride in what I am doing. Evening Times Sport, July 24. Rangers have £10 million offer for winger rejected. Report by Blair Meikle. Rangers have reportedly had an offer for Crystal Palace winger Jesús Rak-Sakyi rejected. The Ibrox club are said to have proposed taking the 22-year-old on loan initially, but with an obligation to buy for up to £10 million. The Premier League side have knocked back the bid, reports The Athletic, but Rangers will continue with attempts to pursue a deal. Rak-Sakyi has lots of interest from down south, so the men from Govan will face plenty of competition to land his signature. The England under-21 star came through the youth ranks of Chelsea before switching to fellow London club Palace in 2021. He made 2 Premier League appearances that season, before a further 6 in 23-24. However, it was a loan at Charlton Athletic where he was really able to display his talents, winning Supporters Player of the Year after hitting 15 goals. Another loan followed at Sheffield United, and the step up to the Championship did not faze him, as he found the net another 7 times. Russell Martin is prioritising adding options in the wide areas, and has already signed Jade Gassama for £2.2 million from Sheffield Wednesday. Gassama came off the bench to score on his debut against Panathinaikos in Champions League qualifying. Fellow winger Finlay Curtis, an 18-year-old, scored the other goal in a 2-0 win. Meanwhile, Panathinaikos skipper Fotis Ioannidis has promised to overturn Rangers' first-leg Champions League advantage in Athens next week. Russell Martin's side will carry a 2-goal lead to Greece after Panathinaikos wilted at Ibrox and were reduced to 10 men. However, the club captain Ioannidis has vowed to gain revenge against Rangers. The Greek international striker said, "Nothing is over. We and all the players really feel that we can win and turn the result around. It was a difficult night because we all thought we had the players to win ahead of the match. We had chances and one moment from Rangers changed everything. It is very important for us that the fans support us and stay patient. They can be our 12th man, and we know they can act as the push we need to win on the night and then go on to qualify." And teammate Anastasios Bakasetas, the captain of Greece, moaned that the result was unfair and pointed out, "I think it's clear that the result was unfair to us. I think that if any team should have won, it was us. But it's also a law of football. When you don't score a goal, you have to accept it. And we had very clear opportunities to score. But there is no point complaining now. We still have one game to rectify this. We all believe we can still qualify." Report by Mark Walker. Evening Times Sport, July 25. Barry Ferguson reveals Russell Martin Rangers chat. Report by Blair Meikle. Barry Ferguson has revealed he had a chat with Rangers boss Russell Martin after vacating the hot seat for him. The Ibrox hero was the man tasked with attempting to steady the ship in between the management of Philippe Clement and Martin. There were some rocky moments, but there were also some real highs, like beating Fenerbahce and Celtic. He wanted to manage his boyhood club on a permanent basis, but was informed at the end of the season he would not be getting that opportunity. Ultimately, the former Southampton boss was the man they went with. Ferguson broke his silence on his Rangers exit this week and insisted he would not change any of it for the world. He is now back carrying out his ambassadorial role at Ibrox, as well as doing work in the media, and he has now revealed he actually had a conversation with his successor before agreeing to do any of that. Not only did that clear his conscience ahead of fulfilling his duties again, but it left him feeling confident he had left the place in good hands. He wrote in the Daily Record column, "That's why I'm back writing my column and back doing my ambassadorial role for the club. Before I agreed to do that, I did have a conversation with Russell Martin. The last thing I wanted to do was cause him any unnecessary distraction. The details of what we discussed will remain private, but I will say this, I came off the phone feeling more relaxed about everything and confident that Russell is the right man to move the club forward. My last words to him were, 'Listen, I'll be right behind you.' Hand on heart, I have been impressed by the way that he speaks and the manner in which he's gone about making changes to the squad and to the style of play. There is no doubt this guy knows what he's trying to put together. Believe me when I say there is no bigger honour than being the manager of Rangers Football Club, and for Russell Martin, the journey starts here. I wish him nothing but the best." Reflecting on his short stint, Ferguson admits that there was one surreal moment that made it finally sink in that he was managing Rangers, going up against Jose Mourinho. And he said, "I do remember the moment that it sunk in for the first time. We had just landed back in Glasgow after beating Fenerbahce 3-1 in Istanbul. I had just come face to face with Jose Mourinho in the dugout. I mean, it doesn't get any more surreal. Anyway, the days and weeks leading up to that Europa League tie had been utter mayhem. Up early every morning to get into Auchenhowie, back home late every night. It was long hours, but I made a promise to myself that I was going to give this job every ounce of energy I had for as long as it lasted." Report by Blair Meikle. Evening Times Sport, July 25. Ian Durrant pinpoints player who must be kept at Rangers. Report by Matthew Lindsay. Ian Durrant believes that Russell Martin needs to hold on to Nico Raskin and build his new-look Rangers team around the Belgian midfielder and his new signing Joe Rothwell if he is to make an immediate impact at Ibrox. Durrant, who won the Scottish title on 6 occasions during his time as a player at his boyhood heroes in the 1980s and 1990s, is optimistic that former MK Dons, Swansea City and Southampton manager Martin can do well at the Glasgow club. He and his fellow light blue greats John Brown and Lee McCulloch had lunch with the ex-Scotland international after training at Auchenhowie at the weekend, and they were all encouraged to hear his plans for the future. The Hall of Fame member, too, was impressed with Rangers' performance in their hard-fought 2-0 triumph over Panathinaikos in their Champions League second qualifying round match at Ibrox on Tuesday evening. However, Durant feels it is imperative that Martin, who has signed no fewer than 8 new players since being named as Philippe Clement's permanent replacement last month, retains the services of Raskin going forward. He was struck by how well the Belgian international dovetailed with Joe Rothwell, the experienced English midfielder who was signed from Bournemouth for £400,000 at the start of this month against the Greek visitors, and feels they can form a good partnership in the middle of the park during the 25-26 campaign. Asked if it was important for the new manager not to lose prized asset Raskin, he said, "Of course, he'll outline that. He wants his best players here, but sometimes money talks. I hope it doesn't, but that's the nature of the beast. But he'll want to keep him, because you can see he's wanting to get Raskin and Joe Rothwell together. The more they play, the better they will get." Durant, who was speaking at a promotional event for the Rangers Youth Development Company's new Big Blue Jackpot at Ibrox, admitted that he had enjoyed chatting to Martin at the weekend, and revealed what he, Brown and McCulloch had told the new manager. He said, "It was nice. I've been doing a wee bit of work with the club, and they invited us over. He was just bouncing a few things off us, asking us what we think. We told him, you just need to win. That's the be-all and end-all. Get the proper players. Get your recruitment right." He was good. He spoke very well. He outlined the way he wants to go. So you've just got to go and back him. He's certainly got the backing of the club now, with the new regime coming in. There will be tough games, especially the Champions League qualifiers. You've got the second leg now. Financially, that could do a lot for the club. It's come at an early time, but he's working every day. He spoke to us about the fitness levels of the team. It looked like the second half on Tuesday that he's worked them really hard. He had a great week down at St George's. He's got all his players back. He's hopefully got a couple more players now. Hamza Igaman and Cyril Dessers missed a fair chunk of pre-season. They are a wee bit behind, but they'll get game time on Saturday. He wants his team so fit. He said that the way he plays, it might take the last 10 to 15 minutes to break teams down. But the only way they're going to break them down is if they are fitter than the other teams. Report by Matthew Lindsay. Evening Times Sport, July 25. Lewis Ferguson reveals new Bologna role. Report by Mark Walker. Lewis Ferguson has admitted he will be very proud to captain Bologna as he prepares for his 4th season at the club, and he has revealed he will be playing in a deeper role this season. The Scotland midfielder is expecting big things from the Coppa Italia winners after their marquee signings of 57 times capped former Lazio hero Ciro Immobile after a year with Besiktas, and ex-Juventus ace Federico Bernardeschi, and he is delighted he will be wearing the captain's armband. Said Ferguson, "I've been here for 3 seasons, so I feel the responsibility in the dressing room. Being captain means a lot. I like the challenge it brings, and it is easy with this team. With the additions of Ciro Immobile, and Federico Bernardeschi, the quality has risen. We know it will be a tough season, and we will play on Thursdays in the Europa League and then again on Sundays. So these two reinforcements will be very important. My first goal is to have a season without any physical problems and not stop every couple of months, which happened last season. I will be playing in a deeper role in midfield, but I am happy with that because I've actually already done it in Scotland, and I feel very comfortable in this position, even if I might have to give up a few goals because I'll be playing further back. But I'll still try to score my share of goals. We have not talked about our targets for the season yet, but we want to do something special. Evening Times. Opinion. Matthew McGregor, the CEO of 38 Degrees, says R&A must choose legacy over divisiveness for 2028 Open Championship. As Donald Trump arrives in Scotland today to visit his golf courses, more than 30,000 people across the UK are sending the organisers of the Open Championship a message. Do not let the 2028 tournament drown in Trump's brand of divisive politics, which pit communities against one another. The Open Championship is more than just a golf tournament. It is a cherished institution, a beacon of sportsmanship and tradition. As organisers, the R&A considers venues for the Open in 2028. A crucial decision looms, one that will define what this event is remembered for. Will it be a pure celebration of golf? Or will it be overshadowed by political divisiveness and bad headlines? For the 50,171 members of the public who have signed our petition, and indeed for many ordinary golf fans, the answer is clear. The Open Championship must not be handed to Trump Turnberry. 38 Degrees is a community of more than 1 million people who, in a moment away from their busy days, take small actions on issues they care about, which all add up to something bigger. We know that people power is one of the most effective ways to ensure decision makers listen. There is a growing chorus demanding that the integrity of our national institutions remain unblemished by divisive figures. To allow a Trump-owned course to host one of the world's biggest, oldest, and most respected golf tournaments would be to reward a divisive individual who condones war crimes and ethnic cleansing in Gaza and promotes racist, homophobic, and misogynistic messages around the world. It would signal support for a figure who ignores national and international law and undermines democratic values. The outpouring of passion for the Open Championship shows how important it is to our national identity. We want to see the world's best golfers compete on the most magnificent links courses, unburdened by external distractions. But the prospect of Donald Trump's ownership casting a shadow over the event threatens to wash that away. It hits at the very heart of what the Open Championship represents: unity, respect, and the sheer joy of the game. Whilst the R&A rightly focuses on the logistical challenges of hosting such a massive event, these challenges pale in comparison to the potential damage to the Open Championship's reputation. The news over the last week or so that Turnberry is even being considered, despite the R&A's previous stance on ensuring the focus remains on golf and not the owner, sparks anger among those who believe the sport should rise above political entanglement and divisiveness. This decision seems unfair to the vast majority of people who simply want to enjoy the sport. 50,171 members of the public have told the R&A, deliver on the promise of an Open that truly celebrates golf, free from the baggage of divisive figures, if you want to keep the trust of fans for generations to come. With Donald Trump in the country for the next 5 days, the gravity of this decision is even clearer. The integrity of the Open Championship is on the line. Do the right thing, says Matthew McGregor, who is the CEO of 38 Degrees. Evening Times Sport, July 25. What does Trump own in Scotland? Report by Christy Dorsey. A new golf course awaits Donald Trump's inspection as he arrives in Scotland, his first visit to the UK since his re-election. The United States President's personal wealth was recently estimated by Forbes as hovering somewhere around $5 billion. £3.7 billion. Among his many assets are the Many and Turnberry golf resorts, with a round on the latter's famed Ailsa course, the most expensive in Scotland, at a price of £1,000 for non-hotel residents before 1 p.m. during peak season. Trump is expected to split his time between the South Ayrshire resort and Aberdeenshire, where he will dedicate the new Championship MacLeod course, named after his Scottish mother. It is expected to officially open in August. Trump International Scotland. The Trump Organization bought the 1,400-acre Many estate, along with its former baronial mansion and hunting lodge, in 2006. Located 8 miles north of Aberdeen, the area is now home to the 5-star golf resort known as Trump International Scotland. The 500-hectare Trump International Golf Links opened in 2012, with construction of the course blamed for damaging the dunes system at Foveran Links. The new MacLeod course has come in for similar criticism. Many House, now known as MacLeod House and Lodge, has been turned into a 5-star hotel. When he originally purchased the property in 2006, Trump spoke of adding a hotel and hundreds of vacation homes to the complex, but these have not been built. In latest accounts filed with Companies House, the resort posted a loss of £1.4 million in 2023 on turnover of £3.7 million. Its 11th straight year of losses. It is listed as having an asset value of £37 million and 84 employees. Trump Turnberry. The Trump Organization purchased this 800-acre Turnberry Hotel and Golf Resort in 2014. The group says it has since invested £200 million in the hotel and Ailsa golf course, which reopened in June of this year after the latest round of renovations. The South Ayrshire course has been the stage for 4 Open Championships, but the competition has not returned to Turnberry since 2009, when Stuart Sink took home the Claret Jug. Trump is expected to use this week's visit to continue pressure for the return of the Open to Turnberry, but officials at governing body the R&A say the venue faces logistical challenges. In addition to the Ailsa, King Robert the Bruce and the Arran golf courses, The purchase of the resort included the 192-room hotel, the ruins of Turnberry Castle, and the iconic lighthouse built in 1873 by the family of Robert Louis Stevenson. The resort is operated by SLC Turnberry Limited, which in turn is 100% owned by Golf Recreation Scotland Limited. SLC Turnberry made a loss of £1.7 million in 2023, while Golf Recreation Scotland reported a profit of £3.8 million, up from £186,000 the previous year. Report by Christy Dorsey. Evening Times Sport, July 28. Cycling. Onley is Grand Tour contender. Report by Susan Egglestaff. Scotland's greatest ever road cyclist has been watching this year's Tour de France with interest and has, along with everyone else, been hugely impressed with a man who, it appears, has the potential to ultimately match that accolade and become Scotland's best ever himself. Yesterday, Oscar Onley finished fourth in the general classification (GC) standings of the 2025 Tour de France. It was an exceptional result from the 22-year-old from Kelso, and so extraordinary was his performance, it even impressed Scotland's best ever road racer, Philippa York. Known as Robert Miller during her cycling career, York produced a string of world-class results, including, most notably, at the 1984 Tour de France, at which she won the King of the Mountains classification and finished in fourth place in the GC. Her stellar career means York is one of a select group of Scots who know just what it takes to contend in the general classification in any of the Grand Tours, and specifically the Tour de France. York, riding as Miller, competed during one of the all-time great eras of the sport, with the riders of the calibre of Laurent Fignon, Bernard Hinault, and Greg LeMond, all Grand Tour contenders at that time. And given her experience, she is well qualified to recognise a truly great rider, which is exactly what she believes Onley can become. This has been highlighted by his 2025 season up until this point, and in particular, his ride at the Tour de France over the past 3 weeks, which saw him in close contention for a GC podium place before ultimately finishing fourth behind only Tadej Pogačar, Jonas Vingegaard, and Florian Lipovitz in the standings. Says York, I have been watching Oscar's progress. He's made a step up this year in terms of results, and I am not surprised he is now performing at the highest level. I thought before the Tour this year that he was good enough for a top 10 finish, but he has really exceeded that by being comfortably in amongst the leaders group when required. Onley's performance at this year's Tour also saw him claim second in the young rider classification behind Lipovitz, and his first ever Grand Tour individual podium spot with third place on stage 7. When added to his fourth place in the GC, this all bodes extremely well for the future, particularly given York's belief that there remain several aspects of his riding upon which he can improve. Thankfully, Oscar's potential has been carefully nurtured by his team, Picnic Post NL, and now he is developing into a genuine Grand Tour contender, says York. He will have learned a lot at this Tour de France, which will allow him to work on a few areas that he can improve upon, including his time trialling, for example. His time trialling is not bad at the moment, but there's gains to be made in that area. But he'll continue to improve as he matures and gains experience. Onley's performance over the past 3 weeks gives him an extremely solid platform upon which to build over coming seasons, particularly as he looks towards 2027, when the Tour de France comes to Scotland for the first time, with the Grand Départ leaving from Edinburgh. York believes that not only will his performance at this year's Tour work wonders for Onley's self-belief, but it will also be significant for Scottish cycling as a whole. 41 years after she finished 4th in the Tour de France, Scotland once again has a rider who is contending for GC honours in the greatest bike race in the world. And that, believes York, is extremely important for the sport in this country. She says, for Oscar personally, his performance at this year's Tour will be a big boost in confidence. His place in the peloton, and the fact he's now a team leader, earns him a massive amount of respect from other riders. And for Scotland, it is a big deal to have a world-class rider involved in the most important races in the sport. Hopefully, this will inspire another generation of young cyclists to believe they can do something similar. Report by Susan Egglestaff. Evening Times Sport, July 28. Fans group delivered demands on prices and pyro to Hampden. Report by Graham McGarry. A group of Scottish football fans from across a number of clubs have delivered a letter to the game's governing bodies at Hampden, demanding that they respect the contributions supporters groups and all fans make to football in Scotland. Representatives from the newly formed Scottish Supporters Collective gathered outside the National Stadium to hand over an open letter that contained a list of 5 changes they wished to see implemented in the Scottish game, with issues cited ranging from the need for fairer ticket pricing, improved facilities for disabled fans, and engagement on how to safely manage the use of pyrotechnics in stadiums. The Scottish Supporters Collective is made up of members of 16 active supporters groups, with some of their members explaining to Herald and Evening Times Sport what they are hoping to achieve. Will Adam, a Falkirk fan, said, "There have been a lot of conversations recently about football fans, but the voice that has been missing from these conversations is the voice of match-going fans. We are asking those in charge to get round the table with the groups of fans who add colour and atmosphere to stadiums, by working together rather than demonising Scottish football can grow and thrive." Manpreet Singh, a Partick Thistle supporter, added, "Fans are Scottish football's biggest asset. You are never going to compete financially with the top leagues in Europe, but where we can rival them is with our passion and loyalty. If those in charge of clubs and those in charge of running the game acknowledged that and engaged meaningfully, we could build something special." The letter read, "Scottish football is nothing without its supporters. The passion, colour and unwavering loyalty of fans is what sets our game apart. Yet in recent months a moral panic has taken hold. The mainstream media and authorities have unfairly demonised active support groups and other passionate supporters, while ignoring the value we bring to stadiums on match day. We have watched in recent months as others have discussed supporter issues, whilst we have collectively been locked out of any consultation, as those with little to no understanding of supporter culture debate out-of-touch ideas on how to improve fan experience. We suggest that rather than continuing with the failed approach of excluding fans from discussions and demonizing a culture that many in power do not understand, the more mature approach involves engaging with supporters to improve our game. Representatives from active support groups across Scotland have met and subsequently agreed to set up Scottish Supporters Collective to act as a wider voice for all supporters. Scottish Supporters Collective have discussed how we would improve the fan experience for Scottish football fans for the season ahead, and we collectively propose 5 key changes to enhance the matchday experience, ensure fairness, and rebuild trust between fans and authorities. 1. Ticket prices should be set and frozen at the beginning of each season to prevent supporters being overcharged. In addition, a flat percentage of away ticket allocations for all fixtures should be introduced. 2. Commitment from all clubs to participate in meaningful and regular supporter engagement with their own club supporters and the wider Scottish Supporters Collective. 3. Allowance of use of atmosphere enhancement materials should be guaranteed access at all grounds, including for away supporters. Those items should include drums, banners, megaphones, and telescopic poles, all of which help provide a positive and supportive atmosphere. 4. A pledge for clubs to increase investment for disabled supporter facilities, as far too many grounds remain inaccessible, with inadequate viewing areas and limited services. 5. Pyrotechnic disposal bins to be installed at all stadiums. Rather than demonizing pyro use, pragmatic measures can mitigate risks while acknowledging its role in fan culture. These bins are a proven solution, providing a safer environment, reducing hazard, and eradicating heavy-handed policing practices. These changes would not be radical, are easily implemented, and would help to improve the matchday experience of fans across the country, along with providing safer measures. More than that, actioning these points would demonstrate that good faith engagement between fans and the custodians of our game can benefit us all. Indeed, all of these measures are currently in use in some form in many countries throughout Europe. The current narrative pits fans against authorities, but this dynamic has failed to deliver the improvements required for our game to grow and thrive. It is time for proper fan engagement. Therefore, Scottish Supporters Collective, which currently includes representatives from across the SPFL leagues, including the majority of Premiership and Championship clubs, request that the above proposals are implemented SPFL-wide and offers an invitation for further talks with SFA, SPFL, SFSA and all clubs within the SPFL league structure. Derek Watson, a Motherwell fan involved in the group, said, "The aim of the collective is fairly simple. We want to create a better and more enjoyable matchday experience for all supporters. Football fans should be at the forefront of decision making. The changes we are proposing are fairly simple, but could make a huge difference." Report by Graham McGarry. Evening Times Sport, July 28. Leon Crichton in line to become Rangers women's head coach. Report by Alison McConnell. Leon Crichton is in line to become Joe Potter's replacement at Rangers. The former Scotland international who completed her UEFA Pro licence this summer, has been identified by the Ibrox side as the ideal candidate to take over from Potter, who headed to Crystal Palace this summer. A Scotland international who amassed 72 caps, Crichton has been involved in coaching and media punditry work since hanging up her boots. She is currently in place at Glasgow City as Leanne Ross's assistant. However, she is the front-runner to take over the Rangers job. She has not managed a team on her own. She has always been in an assistant position, but is understood to have been the standout candidate throughout the selection process. Rangers have lost out on the SWPL title on the last 3 successive final days of the season, with a domestic treble slipping from their grasp on the last 2 occasions. Hibs' triumph this season at Ibrox on the last day meant that Glasgow City finished in the runners-up spot and so claimed the second European spot. Crichton had 3 playing spells with Glasgow City before heading to Motherwell in 2021, where she took up a player-coach role. She can also boast of playing in 2 UEFA quarter-finals for Glasgow City, while she also represented Scotland at the 2017 European Championships and the 2019 FIFA Women's World Cup. She returned to Petershill in November last year to become assistant manager to Ross, following the departure of Scott Booth to Aberdeen. Rangers are due to fly out to Italy this morning after a 6-0 friendly win over Middlesbrough yesterday afternoon. They have lost 6 first-team players this summer, as well as Potter, so there is work to be done ahead of the SWPL kicking off next month. Report by Alison McConnell. Evening Time Sport, July 28. Rugby. Russell Warden's Lions want to finish on a high with a series whitewash. Report by Duncan Betch. Finn Russell insists the British and Irish Lions have arrived in Sydney for the final week of their Australia tour, intent on completing a series whitewash over the Wallabies. The rivals delivered an all-time classic in the second test at Melbourne Cricket Ground, but it was Andy Farrell's men who held their nerve to emerge 29-26 winners. Now they are chasing the 100% record down under that Farrell set as a pre-tour target, an achievement that has not been managed since the 1927 visit to Argentina. Russell, who started the celebrations wearing a chocolate garland given to some of the players by Sion Tupulotu, views the looming Sydney Olympic Park showdown as a must-win occasion. The Scotland fly half said, "Everyone here has been gunning for this for their whole career. To get to the Lions is one thing, and then to get a series win is another. This is my 3rd tour, and I've not won one, so it's special to get this, bringing 4 nations together to be a family for 5 or 6 weeks. So to get the series is amazing, but the job's still not done. We need to go and try and finish it off. Even though we've got the series, we want to finish on a high. Everyone wants to play in that game." Russell has been a key figure in the Lions' first series triumph since 2013, forging an influential half-back partnership with Jamison Gibson-Park that has been among the tourists' greatest strengths. On current form, the best fly half in the game, the 32-year-old is finally getting the accolades that his talent deserves after piloting Bath to Gallagher Premiership, Challenge Cup and Premier Cup success in the recent club season. And he said, "I've learned another style of rugby at Bath. It's a different style that's about getting control back because of the backs that we have to lodge. It's changed the way I look at the game a little bit. On Saturday we had a couple of calls on their 10-metre line, and I'm looking at kick plays rather than launching straight away. I'm loving my rugby right now. Some of the boys might say it's the most confident I've been, and it's been my best rugby, which might be true. It might not. I've not won much in my career, so to have won the titles at Bath and now this is amazing. It's so special. Report by Duncan Betch.
That concludes this week's edition of the Glasgow Times Sports Podcast. Please remember to subscribe to our channels at Q and Review and to tell your friends about our service